welcome you guys to the TeleHmong podcast. Today we are with La and Sam. So give them a warm welcome. Thank you guys for joining us. And La and Sam, I want you guys to introduce yourself because some people might not know who or recognize you guys after such a long time.
Well, you said it already. I'm lying. This is Sam.
So La is the one on the further right, and then Sam is the one more in the middle. But I want to ask you, La, it's been so long. Tell us a little bit about yourself when you guys first got started.
Whew, that's a long story. How much time do we got today? All right.
Try to keep it short.
Yeah. It's been a journey to be up to this point, right? We started the gym here in 2009.
Yeah.
Before that, I was a wrestling coach for Wassa East, and we used to do training in the wrestling practices. So we would go and bring guys and do training from there. And so we bounced around in different high schools in the evenings, and then finally had enough people to say, hey, let's start an MMA team. Mm-hmm. So in 2008 we bought this building, and then 2009 is when we began. But otherwise we've been training probably like 10 years prior to that already. So. And that's how the gym here started. But otherwise, like training-wise, we've been wrestlers since kids, all the way through. So it's a long journey. I'm sure we'll get to some of that too.
Yeah. Why did you guys choose wrestling, MMA, and everything? Because me being your student, your journey has just been very inspiring. So why did you guys choose that path? Sammy?
I kind of followed my older brother's footsteps.
Okay.
I mean, he was in wrestling, so I joined wrestling, gave it a shot, and we just did it for a very long time, and MMA came along, and, we just started training in all other aspects. But before my brother opened this gym, we'd actually had one of my mom's house that we trained in the basement. It was little, probably 10 by 10, drywall and everything. They put holes in there, grappling around, So we started there, and, my older brother decided that he was going to open up his own studio here, you know what I mean? And this is what happened, built a career out of it.
Man.
So who inspired you guys to...
Jackie Chan.
A lot of Kung Fu movies.
Yeah.
As being kids, we watched all those Kung Fu movies, and, I always say I saw the masters, not the fighters that stuck up, but the masters always stuck out to me. And it was always the guys who, because always the fighters always struggling, they're always going through their journey, right? And then the master just somehow like helps them with whatever they need, and he just plays a small role, but a big role in these people's lives, and it changes, and they become champs or whatever they're set out to do. And so for me, I'm like, I want to learn, but I want to be able to help people, And I don't need to be involved in people in their entire life, but just for a moment, just be able to help people when they're in that struggle. And so martial arts became a way to do that. So it worked really well with philosophy of being a believer and being a Christian. And it's just you want to help and give back. And so that's, as a kid, I saw that and I'm like, that's what I want. That's something that I want to be like, They're wise, they're smart, they're humble, and they play the background story. And that's
That's where how you got started.
Yeah, so that's I really wanted that, and we were poor when we were growing up, so we did wrestling. We had our neighbor come and Ting, I don't know if you know Ting Lee, but he came over and he was in high school and he's like, hey, you guys should come wrestle. So we were like in third grade and he brought us to some after school wrestling programs, and then we were hooked ever since.
Okay.
So then we got involved into wrestling and just growing up that way, and then finally open up here at the gym. But it's just you want to challenge yourself, and even like our Taekwondo, how we got started was a neighbor, Master Vu. He moved across the street from us when my mom didn't have money to pay for all of us, and so he's like, hey, I'll cut you guys a deal, and I'll cut you a deal for your 4 sons to come and do Taekwondo for a bit, and then so like it was just like God's design and blessing, and just allowing the right people to be helping us out, because we couldn't afford to do martial arts, So
well, I remember he came over one day and showed us the Taekwondo gear, and he showed me the pants. I'm like, ooh, I'm joining because I like those baggy pants.
Well, when you guys first fought, okay, was that your first match? Was it in the cage or was it a was it Taekwondo? Was it wrestling? Your first match ever?
It'd be
And
wrestling.
How did it feel? Like, did you get nervous? How did you feel?
Man, you're
first time?
talking when we were like 6 years old, 7 years
Really?
old. Yeah.
That long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, and so I'm 40 plus, right? So it's been a long time. But man, I'm just trying to think. When I was back in elementary school, I remember one of my matches was against one of my uncles, and because generation wise, he was a young uncle, but and we got to wrestle, and but yeah, it's just I remember how tiring it felt, and I remember even like memories of wrestling where we didn't really know wrestling, right? We got to remember my dad's a first generation Hmong immigrant here. And so I'm in wrestling. Guess what I'm wearing for shoes? Converse high tops. Because they kind of look like wrestling shoes because we can afford to buy like real wrestling shoes.
Yeah.
And then, so I was wrestling in tennis shoes because we didn't know what to buy or we didn't have the money to buy
the gear.
extra stuff. So we would just grab them, whatever. And then it was in middle school when my coach actually was like, "Hey, I'm buying you your first pair of wrestling shoes," So he got, I was blessed by that and just like, whoa, this is cool, And it was funny. Long story short, he retired as a teacher, and I was able to give him money to buy him another pair of shoes. Like, now I got to pay you back. Buy yourself a pair of shoes. So it was just full completion story. It was just really neat that way. But just you have people along the way that inspires you. Whether it's a coach for a moment, for a few periods, for a couple months, but they play an impact in your entire life.
Oh, that's amazing. And Sammy, how did you feel your first match?
Yeah, I don't really remember the first match at all, but I remember I was very, very athletic, but I was young. It was just a lot of natural gift. I was gifted, and I was just a really fast-paced person. So I wrestled, and through middle school and elementary, I hardly could be beat. And then it got serious when you get in high school. Then you want to show people what you got, and you want to show yourself. If this is a sport for me? Is this my career? Is this where I'm gonna go to? So you get actually a lot of kids back in the day. So this about 20-some years ago where we used to wrestle and all that, but a lot of the Hmong community, the Hmong people, their parents wouldn't sign permission slips because they were afraid you're not going to do this. Your kids are going to get hurt. You know what I mean? So a lot of the Hmong community, the older generations, they didn't allow their kids to do these activities. But now, it's open where the kids are signing them all up, and you can see the Asians. They're growing. The sport is growing to everybody. So all the nationalities. So that's a good thing too. Keeps them out of trouble. And they just focus on the right things. Yeah,
a lot of parents are now like, hey, man, we never got to do this when we were kids, so we want our kids to be.
Right.
So that's neat. That's a good change, because, man, kids got to be busy. If they're not busy, they're going to be busy in something, So.
And, I was kind of a troublemaker when I was young, and one of the UFC trials that me and La went to, we made it all the way to the end, and it came to the people that we had to talk to.
Oh, man.
And they're like,
I want to hear it.
Yeah, they were like, we made it through the finals. I think it was like 600-700 contestants, and we made it to the final 16 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, this is it. This is all about the interview last. You know what I mean? And me and La were talking about it, and they're like, we don't care how good of fighters you guys are. All we care about is our ratings. And I was about to flip that table and beat your ass. It's like, this is your rating. But, in my mind, I'm just like, you still got to show a good person.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? As a good person, you see a lot of cocky fighters. You see a lot of person, but I try to be as humble as possible. But you're going to get that, everybody's different.
You should have flipped the table.
So when you guys went there, where was it? Tell me about it, because I want to hear it again. I remember you guys telling me it.
Oh yeah,
but that was like so long ago.
Yeah, I can't even remember the year, but it was for a 25-35 Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah,
and they were doing tryouts to get on the show, and then we flew to Newark, New Jersey. So it was kind of sketchy. It was sketchy. It's
sketchy.
Newark is, it's pretty sketchy. But anyways,
okay.
But the tryout was there. The first part was striking. And then the second phase was grappling, and then the third phase was, if you made it to that far, went through the interview process.
Okay.
And so there was like, man, 700-800 people there. There was like Olympic champs there. There was all kinds of people, man. There was dudes you looked across, you're like, man, that dude's a killer, and man, like, just like, ooh, I would love to fight that guy. That dude looks like, just an animal. Like, I remember one guy that vividly, I was like, man, this guy from Brazil was, ooh, man, he's gonna be tough. Like, but that was the only person I remember, like, feeling like, man, this dude would be a good challenge. And he didn't even make it on the show. You know, I'm like, man.
Must be boring.
Yeah.
That's probably why.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, so they didn't look just for being a good fighter, but you have to show that you were a good striker.
Okay.
Past that, the second stage was grappling, and so Dana White was in the middle of the table. It was like long table both ways, and then he had a stack of $100 bills at the table, and then they just called random people to come, and then whoever you grapple, whoever gets a submission. And you get $100 for every submission. Wow. So one dude walked away like with $500, and you can pull off 5 submissions. I'm like, man, I hope they get someone easy, man. But he just came up to the table. Here you go, $500. Just I was like, so that was my first impression with Dana White.
Did you get any money?
No, I had to do it. I just was like, come on, let me bend you. Let's split the money.
Oh, man. No. You should have whispered in his ear, saying, hey,
let me give you 2 times. Let's split it.
So was it like you grapple with this guy, and then if you beat him, you go to the next guy?
They're watching how you grapple, too, because if you both look bad, then you don't even make it to the third phase, too. So nobody's taking it easy because you're trying to look good,
Yeah.
So, and you got all kinds of levels there, right? So,
right.
Yeah, but then we made it to the third phase. And then so we got in a line to go into an interview room. It was their media room now. So it was the media producers and all that.
Okay.
So as we went into the room, they're like, we don't give an F who you are. We don't give an F how good of a fighter you guys are. Like, we want to know, like, how you're going to be. It was more like, and I just started laughing. I'm like, I'm not getting on the show. I'm like, I already felt like, I just started laughing when they were talking because I knew, like, it was like personality kind of stuff, And I remember being online, and there was this skinny dude. He was like kind of redneck. He had a beer in his hands. He's like, man, when I get in that, I'm like, this dude's gonna get on. Guess what? He got on. Oh man! So they want character. They want people because they gotta sell. They gotta sell. You gotta sell.
You gotta sell.
They got their reasons why they choose what they do. You know. So just because you're a good fighter doesn't mean, because there was a lot of killers in there, but doesn't mean that you're gonna sell. They're looking for personality and stuff too.
Yeah, I remember him telling me, he's like, so because La went to the interview first, and then after that, then they came in. He's like, whoa, so La's your brother? I'm like, yeah, La's my brother, And he's like, well, it looks like you've been locked up a few times, so they probably pulled up our records and everything like that.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, I did it. Some things here and there, And they're like, well, I'm like, and I told them, I'm like, well, La's kind of your guy. He's your good guy to follow. You know what I mean? I'm that cricket path guy that does the wrong stuff, all the time.
Right.
But you learn from your mistakes,
Yeah.
And I was like, and I told him, if you want entertainment, just think about the Hmong culture, the Hmong people. And he asked me, he's like, what the hell is a Hmong? A Hmong? We like Navy SEALs, So I was explaining to him what the Hmong people are, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, wow, I never knew that, you know what I mean? I was like, well, just think about it like this. You put us on this show, you're going to get your ratings, and you're going to get the whole Hmong community, the Hmong people to follow you,
Oh,
you know what I mean? And to watch us. You know what I mean? He's like, I like that. You know what I mean? But all at the end, he chose the 2 other brothers instead of us 2.
No.
You know what I mean? But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But it was close. We had a lot of close calls.
Man, I don't think anybody has ever made it that far, though.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody.
It was close. Sam had that fight against Josh Sample in Florida.
Oh yeah.
That was for a title fight. Yeah.
CFX, I think.
What is it? It wasn't Chosen Few. I can't even remember the name. It's been so long.
I think it's
You can
CFX,
tell we keep track a lot of our fights. And
Right.
We live through our past. No, we don't even. So.
Yeah, that was a fight where everybody was watching that fight. For that 125-pound, and it was just. I knew that if I won that fight, I would have went to the UFC, and a lot of people were like, "Yeah, if you win this fight, whoever wins this fight is going to the UFC." And my mindset in there was, I was ready. My body was determined. I'm saying? I was 100%.
Yeah.
And then when I went in there, I fought. For some reason, I was just about knockouts. I'm a knockout. I like to knock people out. You know what I mean? I don't like to grapple very much. You know what I mean? And it's more entertaining for me. To see if you can knock me out.
Right.
So we went at it all 5 rounds, and he ended up taking me down here and there. You know what I mean? I ended up winning through a 5-round decision, and he got a 6-figure contract at UFC.
But he didn't last long though.
No, he did not.
He fought 3 fights in the UFC.
He ended up making his first fight. He did not make weight, and you know how Dana
shit.
make weight.
That's over, man.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think he had 3 losses in UFC. He probably got cut, and I think he fought for Bellator after that. But yeah. But it was an opportunity. It was that close. There was a moment when Sam upkicked him, and then he just kind of fell down, and I think he was knocked out in Sam's guard. But instead of Sam sweeping him and doing something, Sam just punches him back, and he wakes up, and he's in Sam's guard. I'm like, dang, Sam. Like,
Sam woke him up.
I did.
You
He knocked
knock
out,
him
woke
out,
him
woke
up.
him back up. Like, man, you could have like just. Well, that's what happens. You don't do your jiu-jitsu and you know, sweep the guy, get on top, and all that.
Yeah.
So, but it was close. It was you know, that was the closest we got. So
That's amazing.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people saw that fight, and you walked out with the Hmong. What was that? You walked out
A
with
Hmong cloak.
the Hmong cloak.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically for like it's an undertaker. We'll just say, you know what I mean. But for me, when I wore, you know, I wore it to represent, you know what I'm saying, the
Yeah.
Hmong people. You know what I mean, because how my dad is, you know what I mean. My dad was strictly it's all about Hmong people. It's all about respect and reputation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. So the older generation, my dad always like he ran the show. You know what I mean. He has a good name and everything like that. So I wanted to represent to my dad and show him that, hey, Dad, I can represent your people too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But not only that, I'm not only Hmong, but I am white also. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Even in school years and all those things, you know, we did represent the Hmong people, but I also did represent my nationality for American too. You know what I mean? So you got a lot of people who were racist back then, both ways, vice versa. And me and my older brother were always the mutual ones like, man, why are you guys over here being racist to these guys over here? We're all the same people.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Did you guys face a lot of that in growing up though? Because you guys
Oh
were
yeah, we
mixed?
whooped a lot of ass.
Oh, are you telling me the law did too?
I was
I may got in a few scuffles here and
Yeah.
there. I think the term is I can neither confirm nor deny.
But he did. But La did. He did a lot of like, you know. For me as a younger brother, you know, I always knew
Yeah.
I had an older brother to look up to.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know what I mean? And if I said something to him, the one day that I said something to him, he went out and grabbed that guy and pushed him to the locker.
Really?
I'm like, all right, I ain't telling
Oh.
him nothing no more. So we just left it at that. You know?
Oh shit.
But, yeah. But
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, we did get a lot of scuffles though, you know, here and there. So about racism and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Back in our days, generation now they still have it, but yet, you know, it's different these days.
Yeah.
You know.
I could only imagine how you guys grew up because I think you guys were the first ones that were mixed in Wausau
then,
here.
Yeah.
The hybrids.
Yeah.
Being half Hmong and half white. You know,
Right.
the white kids would be like, go play with the Hmong kids, and Hmong kids would be, go play with the white kids. Be like, oh yeah, I just play by myself. You know? You know, but and then you know it was interesting too because my mom and my dad they were like one of the first Hmong interracial married couples. So it was weird as growing up we had the newspaper. And a lot of people
Yeah.
come and interview my parents all the time. So it was kind of like my parents are almost like, in a sense, like for us, like superstars and rock stars already. Like, how are they in the news so much? Like, I guess this is weird, but this is pretty neat, you know. But so we kind of live a little bit through some of that too, you know. And, so we got to be in the paper quite a bit as kids because I guess we were the scientific experiment on interracial marriages.
It's funny because I actually have a piece of newspaper from way back then, where you guys were in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sam had the rat tail still.
It's called a dragon tail.
La had hair. You know?
In one of his fights, he had wings, and so he fought in North Dakota. He had sideburns.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
What are those things? Wings?
Yeah, didn't the guy pin you down by holding those?
Hell no.
He didn't do that.
No, he was a good fighter though. Yeah, good grappler, we'll just say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
he
guy.
was a two-time absolute world champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So
That's crazy.
pretty slick, dude.
You guys fought some of the best.
Yeah, it wasn't like you know you didn't. We were trying to get somewhere, so you don't get to fight
Right.
the cupcakes, you know. So you got to fight decent people to get places faster. Mm-hmm. So
And I love that about the sport. It's like, you know, I like to build a name for myself as fast as possible. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I could be a 2-2 guy record, you know what I mean? But I want the best because that's gonna build my character and show me who I can defeat.
Right.
You know what I mean? But there's a lot of stuff inside of me, but like, hey, you're not that good, you know. But I trained my ass off. And,
Yeah.
you know, when I started fighting all these fights, you know what I mean? And it's like, wow, I am that good. You know what I mean? You just gotta make sure you tell yourself that you are. You put in all this dedication. If you're going there like, hey, it's a 50-50. Nah, you know what I mean? That's where a lot of fighters, they screw up these days, where you put in the work, you're just as good as this fighter. Anything can happen in that ring, but you got to face it. You know what I mean? And when I used to go in there, I started calming myself, and I'm like, it's just like practice. And once I got that comfortable feeling in that ring, I could fight anybody. You know what I mean? But as long as I stuck with the game plan, you know, and sometimes it threw me up because I like to try to knock people out all the time. That throws my game plan off. You know what I mean? So you got to be really focused in there, and what do you want to fight for, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Man, did you guys ever face any like discrimination in the cage? Like anybody ever make fun of you guys because you're mixed?
No, not for that. I don't think they really care at that point. You know what race you are. You know, it's more fighting like the local hometown heroes, or you know, like I remember when he fought. I don't know when him and I both fought for a title the same night on the same day.
Yeah, I remember.
So
that.
I remember
it was these titles.
Yeah, it was
right?
these
Yeah.
titles. Yeah, that's right.
Tell us about the title that you.
Yeah, so we both fought the exact same night for the same titles, and it was funny because we were in the exact same positions in the fights. So we were both in triangle chokes. So
I was in Milwaukee and you were.
I was in Denver and he was in Milwaukee, and we were both in triangle chokes, getting suffocated.
for about 4 minutes.
Yeah, so it was just funny. Like the same things was happening in two parts of the world, and we're fighting on the exact same night. You know, so it was just really neat that way. But I remember like when I was walking for the title fight, man, it was at the Bloomington Arena, and we had people booing us. So you got thousands of people going, boo, because he's the champ, man. You're fighting the champ.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, I
fighting the hometown.
Yeah, you're fighting the hometown champ.
Right.
You know, and so you're trying to take it away from him, and he's on the verge of going to the UFC because his coaches are in the UFC. Like you know, he had Dwayne the Bang Ludwig, Nate the Great Marquardt, you know, Nate Marquardt, right? And so there was a couple dudes in this corner, and they were already like making fun of me, like in the video shoot, you know.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Oh, you're gonna kill this guy." Like I'm standing right next to you, and you're telling me that right now, like. But I'm training out of my garage, right? I'm just.
Going to that fight. What was your game plan?
To fight.
Just to fight, like what?
No, yeah, you know, I knew he was. So he trained Muay Thai, and I knew he had a good grappling ground. So you know, for me, I'm like, I'm a wrestler. He's a grappler. You know, I'm different on the ground than a normal grappler because I'm a wrestler. So I don't do traditional. So I'm like, I might have an advantage there. And he did a lot of Muay Thai because he trains with a 4-time world champion. So I'm like, okay, so his strikes is gonna be pretty good. So my game plan is more to take him down. And try to in that way.
Trying to submit him.
Yeah, try to submit him. And in the fight, I didn't see a lot of the heavy duty more. You're fighting him. You're not fighting his 4-time world champion coach. You're not fighting, you know, and so he's got to be able to perform. And so sometimes you get caught up into what, like, oh man, the back of the schools, but that person still has to perform and do the things they need to do, you know. And so, you know, and in the fight, you have a plan kind of, but you got to be flexible in the ability to change because if it's not working, you got to be able to adapt in the ring too. You know, that's the hard part with MMA is there's
so many,
you know, there's so many angles and so many changes that can take place. So. But in the end, you just have to fight, you know?
Right. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. And if you guys don't mind, I want you guys to share your stories of when you guys were going to go fight for your title and how it was when you were going down there and just kind of give us like a brief overview of everything that happened during that time. So, yeah, if you guys don't mind. So we're going to take a break and then we will be right back, you guys.